Hey racers, and welcome back to another live stream. Hopefully you all had a good weekend and got out there and did some racing. I know there was the second round for the grassroots series. I think it was the Tenterfield Terror, which is another big event for the year. And what else was on the weekend? I don't know if there was anything else. If you went out racing on the weekend, post up below in the comments. Let me know where you were racing. To get into today's topic, it's probably a topic, hey Luke, probably a topic a lot of you don't like to talk about or like to think about, which is more the safety side of riding. Hey Michael, and that's something I wanted to tackle today, since most of my videos are based on performance and doing everything better or at increased speeds or for increased periods of time. We never really talk about safety. And I think hey Tony, I think the main thing for safety out on the bike, the reason you would want to tackle that is because that's the thing that allows you to do the thing that you love doing, right? Like if you love riding and love racing, hey Eddie, and hey John, and you want to get out there and you want to ride, you probably do it because you enjoy it, right? And so I know the hardest times are when you are injured because you can't do the thing that you love doing. So for me, when I was racing, I had 3 broken arms. 14 years of racing and 3 broken arms. Funnily enough, only one was from actually riding. And I knew during those times, like all I could think about during those times was getting back on the bike, right? It was like the longest 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks of my life. At that point, it felt like that time was never going to end, right? Whereas when you look back, it was obviously just a short period of time. And that's because I enjoyed it so much. Enjoyed getting out there riding, enjoyed getting out there racing. And so anytime you have something that interferes with that, it doesn't just interfere with, not riding. It's just, I guess, your life in general is a little bit more down. Maybe you're not as happy as normal because you can't go and do the thing you love doing. So anytime we can prevent that from happening, you can go and ride more, you can get quicker, faster. Hey, Justin, you can go and spend more quality time on the bike and do the things that you love doing, whether you're younger, or whether you're older. So these are my top 3 ways to make your riding and racing safer. Shout out, let me know who's on here. Maybe just give me a hey Zach, good to have you on here. Maybe just give me a Facebook like. Awesome, Will, you had the Kosciuszko killer, you did. There we go, now I'm getting some messages come through. Good stuff. All right, so top 3 ways to make your riding safer. First thing is strength, okay? Now, for those of you that have been following me for a while, I always bang on about strength, and I'll continue to bang on about strength. That's what this article here was about in the newspaper in 2015, and we're in 2021, and I'm still banging on about it. Until we reach the day that every single person out there is lifting weights and getting strong, then my mission will not be complete. So, why do you want to get stronger for helping with making your riding safer? A few things happen with strength, okay, safety-wise. First of all, like I always talk about, the stronger you get, the lighter the bike feels, okay? Anytime we can make the bike feel lighter, you use less energy and you fatigue less. So if you use less energy and fatigue less, you make better decisions out on the bike, okay? Tiredness and fatigue, I would say, I don't have any research behind it, just using a bit of common sense, tiredness and fatigue would have to be the number 1 cause of accidents, okay? It wouldn't be other riders on the track, it wouldn't be shitty tracks, it's tiredness and fatigue, because at the start of the race, you're fresh, everyone knows what they're doing, everyone's hyper-focused, right? As soon as you start to include fatigue into riding, then that's when we've got a disaster waiting to happen, okay? The more and more fatigue there is, the more and more likely, hey Matt, the more and more likely it is that you're going to have an accident and something's going to happen, okay? It's not so much the other riders that are a hazard, it's you that's the hazard, okay, if you're fatiguing. Hey James, and then if we have multiple people in a race that are fatiguing together, then that's even a bigger disaster, right? So when you get stronger, you fatigue less, okay? That's one component. That's a performance benefit and a safety benefit. The other thing that happens is when you increase your strength, okay, and even a little bit of muscle mass as well, you provide more support for your joints and for your bones. So anytime, when you go and weight train, you're building strength through muscle, but you're also increasing your bone density and bone strength as well. And the reason that happens is when you go on weight train, so let's say I'm betting, I don't always talk about don't do bicep curls, right? But this is just an easy example. Let's say we're doing bicep curls, okay? When I move my arm backwards and forwards, the muscles are connected to bones. And so what happens is you've got your bone and you've got the muscle attached to the bone. And so first of all, I have to contract the muscles, which pull the bones, which allow me to move my arm. So let's say this is the bone and this is the muscle. The muscle is continually pulling on the bone. Now, if you don't do any weight training, there's a certain level of strength there, okay, to help you to move those bones, but not much. If you do a lot of strength training and a lot of weight training, what happens is these muscles have to pull on those bones really, really hard to be able to move them in the specific movement that you want to move them into. And so what happens is the bones get like micro flexes in them, okay? So they're not full on like snapping or bending, but they're just these little micro flexes that happen when the muscles continuing, are continuing to pull on the bone. And so what happens is your bones get conditioned to this, okay? They build up in levels of strength, which means they're much harder to be able to break on the bike when you come off. So it's the equivalent of, I'm trying to think, it's like maybe you guys have had this with riding, right? If you don't ride for ages and then you go and ride, your hands get really sore, okay? You start getting blisters and your hands starting to tear. Same as if you never do pull-ups at the gym and you start doing pull-ups, hanging on is the hard bit, right? After you've done a shit ton of pull-ups or you do a shit ton of riding, your hands don't get as sore anymore. And your hands don't get as sore because they get conditioned to the load. Same thing happens with your bones. So the stronger you get with your strength work, okay, you're not just getting stronger and getting all the performance benefits, you've got stronger bones. Now, I don't know, any of you guys that anyone follow the Supercross? Just give me a like or post up in the comments. Hey Kane, any of you guys follow Supercross at all? For those of you that do, if you watch the lights, right, and you've seen Cameron McAdoo, he has had that many big crashes in the last 3 rounds, it's absolutely crazy. And like, I'm talking massive crashes, right? Like decent ones. There was the first one where he was on the top of the bridge and then Hunter Lawrence crashed into him. There was the second one, which is where he cartwheeled and went over the bars and had his feet caught under the bars and landed up on exactly the same jump that he came off the weekend before. And then if you just watch the round that was on yesterday, then he had another big crash, okay, going over a triple where his body did a somersault in the air and landed down on the other side of a triple or halfway through the triple. And then had a heap of other crashes throughout race day as well. Hey Matt, hey Rodney, in the final, I think he crashed about 3 times in one race, and then had another one where he took out smacked into another rider while he was going through the air. Now I don't know what type of training he does. Maybe he just has good genetics and he's naturally strong, but there is some level of strength there that is keeping that guy bouncing up off the floor and going again. That's not normal for people to smack the floor that hard that many times and still be able to get up and keep going. We've also seen people that have injuries that have crashes that are nowhere near as spectacular as that. So I don't know if he strength trains and does a lot of weight training. I don't really go on social media too much. Maybe he does, or maybe he has just good genetics and happens to be pretty strong anyway. But anyway, that's the benefits of strength. The other thing that happens with strength is your muscles support your joints. Okay, same thing, help you to move your arms around, and that's how joints work. The more muscle and the more strength you have, the more support you have for your joints, okay? The less muscle and less strength you have, the less support you have for your joints. So even if I just push up off this table and I've got no muscle strength, then I can dislocate my shoulder, or I've got a shoulder injury or a shoulder issue. That's why older people tend to have a lot of joint issues, right? Not so much because, hey Jason, not so much because they're old, okay? A lot because they're lacking in strength, okay? That may be due to age, it may be due to inactivity, but either way, it's because they don't have strength, so they're more susceptible to sore knees, sore ankles, sore back, sore shoulders. So for riding, it's a very joint-demanding thing, right? You're up on your feet, you got leg out in fast corners, they can get caught in a rut, whole heap of things can happen, right? You fall off and you fall on your shoulder or you put your hand out. Getting strong is going to greatly reduce the chance of you having injury with any of these, okay? So the stronger you can get, the better your joints are going to be, the less chance you have of breaking bones if you do come off, and you're also going to fatigue less and make better decisions out on the track because you're not going to be using as much energy. Hey Adam, that's 3 things just from strength training. I still got another 2 things to go through, right? That's just from lifting weights, and that's just from a safety perspective. So in terms of safety, that's huge because at the end of the day, if you want to get better at riding and racing, you have to be consistent with your riding. Okay, you can't just go riding once every few months and expect to get better at riding. You have to be consistent with riding and consistent with your racing. To be consistent with your riding and racing means you can't be getting hurt. If you're getting hurt, you're inconsistent with your gym work, you're inconsistent with your fitness work, you're inconsistent with your riding, you're inconsistent with going racing. So instead of having a nice progress line like this over the year, okay, what happens is you go up like this, you get hurt, you come down, you get better, you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down, and you get to the end of the year in relatively the same spot because you got hurt, had injuries, had niggles, had things that were coming up throughout the year. So that's strength work. Is everyone convinced on doing some strength stuff now? To help with your consistency with racing? Maybe give me a like or post up in the comments. See these comments, guys. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm covering the screen. I've got the my phone up the opposite way today, so I have to go left-handed. All right? So get stuck into strength work. Do not hold back on your strength work. Stop putting it off. Okay, stop talking about next week, next month, next season, whatever it is. Get stuck into some strength work. Next thing is cardio. So when you're racing, one of the hard things about racing from the cardio perspective is you're sucking in the big ones. And the reason you're sucking in the big ones is not because you're riding for so long, it's because of the intensity of the riding. And so what I mean by that is, like if you compare, if you've ever done interval training and you've done long, slow distance training, you know the difference between them. If you've only ever done one or the other, you're going to find it a bit harder to understand this. But like let's say if you've ever done, let's say you do 10 minutes of intervals and you do a minute on, a minute off for 5 rounds on an exercise bike, right? That is way, way, way harder than doing 10 minutes of just consistent cycling, even though you're doing less work. And the reason that it's a lot harder is because of the intensity. Because you've got that rest there, you push so much harder and you use different energy systems in that 1 minute that you have on, okay, of going hard on the exercise bike. If anything's going to make you feel sick because you've been pushing that hard, it's not the 10-minute cycle, okay? It's the high intensity stuff that's going to hurt you. Same thing happens when you're out on the bike. And this is where a lot of riders and racers go wrong, is because they do the wrong type of cardio. So when you're out riding, if we narrow it down, let's say for a motocross race, what happens is parts of the track are very high intensity, parts of the track are lower intensity. So if you take a motocross track, there might be like really sandy whoops, which take a lot of physical effort. You're really fighting the bike, hanging off the back, trying to keep the momentum going. Okay, there's sand everywhere, so it's not easy to keep the bike straight. It takes a lot of effort. But then on that exact same track, there'll be jumps there where you float through the air over the jump. It takes little to no effort, okay? Or you go through like a gravel section or a hard pack section, little to no effort, right? So we're going high effort, low effort, high effort, low effort, high effort, low effort. And every lap, every corner, we're constantly going up and down, fluctuating up and down as we keep riding. So we need to train for that, okay? So using intervals is like what I just talked about. Instead of going and doing a whole heap of long distance cardio stuff, you need to focus on doing short, sharp, high intensity stuff. Now, the reason that that's important is when you go out and ride and you've been doing longer distance stuff, and then you go out and ride and you understand now that it's high, low, high, low, high, low intensity, your body can't handle it because they're two different types of training, okay? Your body's not used to that intensity and operating at that rate, and the energy system's working that quickly to restore energy that's being used, called ATP. So your body has to convert nutrients that are in your body into ATP, okay? When we're operating at high intensity, it has to convert nutrients into ATP very, very fucking quickly, right? And so for it to get good at that, you need to train those energy systems using like interval training or high intensity training. Now, what's going to happen if you do longer distance stuff and then you get out and ride, your body's not going to be used to operating at that intensity. And that's where you're going to run into trouble. So what starts to happen is your body is not efficient at also getting oxygen in and shuttling it to the muscles and shuttling it to your brain to help them to operate. So what happens when any of you guys ever held your breath before? Don't do it. But any of you previously ever held your breath? What happens if you hold your breath for too long? Or what do you think would happen if you haven't actually done it? What would happen if you hold your breath for too long? Post up in the comments. What would happen if you held your breath for too long? Or what starts to happen the longer you hold your breath? Run out of water. We used to do this at swimming. When I used to do my club swimming, we used to go underwater for as long as we could without breathing. What happens? Does anyone know what happens? What happens if you hold your breath for too long? What happens? What do you experience? What happens the longer that you hold your breath for? Post up in the comments. Maybe you are posting in the comments and I just can't see them and Facebook's not popping them up. So what happens, maybe we've got some answers and I just can't see them. What happens if you hold your breath for too long is you start to black out and eventually you'll pass out. Okay, so if you see like these deep water divers, there's this thing on, there was a show I was watching with these deep sea divers that go as deep as they can. And so for the ones that didn't make it, they black out and people have to go down and pull them up and bring them back to the top, right? So the reason they black out is because their brain, hey Anthony, hey Belinda, hey Rodney, the reason they black out is because their brain's got no oxygen, okay? So that's it, lights out. Now, it doesn't just happen like that, okay? You don't just all of a sudden not taking oxygen, like I can hold my breath now. I didn't black out, right? It doesn't happen like that. It's a steady decline that happens, okay? Your vision starts to go. You start to see spots. You can't focus properly. Everything's a little bit blurry. Your vision gets smaller and smaller and smaller. A whole heap of things start to go out the window. Now, exactly the same thing happens when you're going right. So at the start of the race, plenty of oxygen in, you're fresh, your breathing's good, sweet. You can see the track, you can see the lines, you can see where the riders are, you can react really well, your coordination's awesome, okay? Beautiful. Then what happens is you start to fatigue, all of those things start to disappear. All of a sudden you can't see as well, your peripheral vision starts to disappear. You can't focus as well, okay? Lines start to become a little bit blurry rather than sharp. Your awareness of your surroundings and the riders and the people around you is a little bit slower. Your reaction time is a lot slower. Your coordination's a lot slower. When the bike kicks out, you don't anticipate what's going to happen as quickly. Your body can't react as quickly. You make poorer decisions out on the track in terms of passing or taking different lines or what to do if someone's crashed in front of you. So your likelihood for having your crash or coming up or coming off greatly increases the minute that your body is less efficient at taking in oxygen, okay? Purely because you're going from a completely conscious stage and you're restricting oxygen. So all of those things I just talked about go down, 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 as you continue to ride and as you continue to fatigue, okay? So of course that's going to make your riding safer. If you do the right cardio and you go into interval training and get used to operating at that high intensity, it's not a shock for your body and your body's really efficient at using that energy system. So it can operate at, hey Anthony, it can operate at high intensity and you're not going to get all of those negative benefits. Your vision's going to be a lot sharper. You're going to make better decisions, which is great for the end of the race, right? Instead of just getting stuck in the rut, taking the same lines, you can start to look for different lines. You can make passes on the other guys that you wouldn't normally make. But from a safety side, since that's what we're talking about today on today's live stream, you greatly reduce the chance of you coming off and having an accident because you're making better decisions. You're more focused, okay? You're not doing dumb stuff that you otherwise wouldn't normally do at the start of a race. So if you take a video of yourself at the start of the race and you look like an A grader or a B grader, okay, and then you take a video of yourself at the end of the race and you look like you've never ridden before, then that's probably fatigue that's causing that. It's not that you need to go and do another coaching school, okay, or go and watch more YouTube videos on how to improve your skills. You need to stop fatiguing, get some oxygen to your brain and to your body. That's cardio. If any of you guys need some help with this, by the way, that reminds me. Send me a message. I've got 3 spots left for our motorsport development program. You need to be able to commit to 3 one-hour blocks of training off the bike, follow a meal plan at least 80% of the time, and also be coachable as well. Okay, and when I say be coachable, I mean sometimes you're probably going to be wrong and doing the wrong things. Just be willing to do things differently to what you've been doing them. Okay, don't come in expecting to do the same shit you've always done and get a different result. So if any of you guys are interested, jump off this live stream, send me a private message, and I can see if I can help. Third thing is nutrition. Okay, you have to be eating well. Okay, same thing. Nutrients go in. Okay, nutrients is your fuel tank. So we need to make sure your fuel tank is at 100%. Right? When we've got the right nutrients and the right foods going in, we can get that fuel tank to 100%, which means you've got enough energy to go through a full ride or through a full race. Okay, and minimize the amount of fatigue that you experience. If your nutrition is terrible, or you don't have a nutrition strategy, okay, or having a Red Bull, okay, or a bit of Powerade is your nutrition strategy, then you're going to have problems. So the reason that nutrition is important for safety is because as soon as your body starts to run low on fuel, again, your brain needs nutrients, your muscles need nutrients. At the end of the day, it just causes fatigue. Okay, that's really what we're preventing here with all three areas, is we're stopping your body from fatiguing. So as soon as we haven't got the right nutrition going in, we fatigue a lot quicker. We make terrible decisions out on the track. Okay, we lay that, like we've all seen people make silly mistakes at the end of the day when the track's really rough. You're buggered from riding all day, and you make a silly mistake out on your own. It's got nothing to do with anyone else, right? Happens to a lot of us, but that's due to fatigue, right? And part of that is nutrition. It's making sure you've got the right fuel in the fuel tank to be able to go the distance. So they're the three areas: strength, get stronger, fatigue less, and more so with your bones, right? Make your bones stronger, make your joints stronger. So if you do come off, like Cameron Macadoo, you can get back on and keep riding. Even if you've had how many crashes has he had? He's probably had 3, 4, 6. I think he's had 5 or 6 big crashes over the last 3 rounds. And still amazes me how he's still been able to bounce and get back up. But if you want that type of bounce back from injuries, from crashes, then you need to be doing the underlying work, which is strength. Do the right cardio, get enough oxygen to your brain, okay? Don't be riding. People always say to me on the phone, oh, I think I hold my breath. It's not about you holding your breath. It's about you doing exercises and training to help you breathe, right? So whether you're holding your breath or whether your cardio is shit, you're going to get the same effect. Less oxygen to your brain and your muscles, and you're not going to perform well. And you're going to make terrible decisions. How do you improve that? You do the right type of cardio, okay? You're not going to be holding your breath out on the bike if you do the right type of cardio, because you're going to practice that in your training, right? So going riding on the weekend and saying you hold your breath doesn't help you, because how are you going to fix that? What are you going to do? Put a reminder in an earpiece to tell you you're going to tape it on your handlebars? Probably not, because you're going to be focusing on the riding and racing at hand, not looking at your handlebars the whole time. And then nutrition, making sure you're putting the right fuel in the fuel tank. Hey, Hayden. So that's the 3 areas. Now, is there any questions, guys? I did see some come through, so let me just have a quick look here. Any questions, though, that I can help you guys with? What have we got? What have we got? I did see one, I think, come through. Let's have a look. Rodney, what's the best thing to do with an old injury pre-race, ice or heat? It's a very good question. Ice is probably not going to be, it depends on the injury, first of all. To answer your question directly, if it's a muscle injury, which I'm assuming it is, if it's an old injury, then heat is probably going to help you more. The reason heat helps is heat makes your body more elastic, right? So what I mean by elastic is it makes the muscles stretchy and pliable, so you have less chance of injury. That's why you have a warm-up. Like when you go to the gym, you do a warm-up. You go for a run, you do a warm-up, right? That's the whole purpose of warming up, is you make the muscles warm and they become more elastic. When muscles are cold, they're very stiff and rigid, which means they're more susceptible to injury. So if you've got an old injury and it's muscular, I wouldn't be icing it before you go straight out, because that'll probably increase your chance of having an injury, because you're making that muscle less elastic, right? You're making it more stiff and more rigid rather than less stiff and more flexible or more pliable. On top of that, though, you should be working on, if you have an old injury, you should be working on things to improve it, depending on the injury. 9 times out of 10 with the riders I work with, injuries can be improved from where they are. It's just that they haven't either had the right person to help them, or they haven't done the work when they were supposed to with the right person that could help them back when they did the injury. So if you've got an old injury, there's always things you can do with your training to improve. Always things you can do to push things forward. Sometimes that means using different exercises. Sometimes it means using rehab exercises, different stretching exercises. There's always something you can do to move things forward. But I think overall, Rodney, depending on the injury, if it's muscular, then yeah, going with heat and warming up over ice. What else we got, guys? Any other questions? Anything else at all? Make sure they're all coming through A-OK. Any questions at all? Anyone got any questions about the coaching that I do with our riders and what we work on? Because I know there's a lot of you that do follow a lot of my videos, which is great. And some of you work with me, which is great as well. But is there any questions about coaching or about what working with me would look like, what we do, if I can help you, if I can't help you, anything like that at all? Or is there any questions related to what we've gone through today as well? Awesome, no problem, Rodney. Any questions at all? Or is that all we got for today? We're going to head out and train soon. Got a Olympic weightlifting competition in a couple of 2 weeks. Not this weekend, next weekend. So putting in the hard yards with training to get out there and give it a good crack. All right. Maybe there is no questions. Cool. Well, that's it. As I said, any of you guys are after help with your training, feel free to send me a private message and I'll see if I can help. Otherwise, hope you guys are enjoying the videos and look forward to putting some more together soon. See you guys.